Assalamu alaikum dear students, hope you all doing well. Today we are going to discuss about the adaptations in aquatic plants. In the previous lecture, we studied about the adaptations in terrestrial plants, in which we studied the different categories of plants, rather terrestrial plants, and their adaptations. In today's lecture, I'll tell you about the aquatic plants and their adaptations. You already know that those plants which grow in water are called as aquatic plants. Those plants which grow in water, ऐसे plants जो water में grow करते हैं, such plants are called as aquatic plants. And these are divided into three categories. These aquatic plants are divided into three categories. First one is floating plants. Another one is fixed plants, while the other is underwater plants. Now let's discuss about these three types, that's floating plants, fixed plants, and underwater plants one by one. First of all, let's start with floating plants. When we talk about floating plants, these are those aquatic plants which float on the surface of water. That means ऐसे aquatic plants जो float करते हैं on the surface of water, they are called as floating plants. Examples are wolfia or water hyacinth or duckweed. These are the examples of floating plants. Like here you can see in the picture, this is actually wolfia, or this one is water hyacinth. So this is what we mean by floating plants. These plants float on the surface of water. Now let's talk about their adaptations. Their size is small, and they are light in weight, and their body is spongy. That means why they have small size, why are they light in weight? इनका size small होता है because they need to float on the water. लाइट वेट इसलिए होता है या स्पॉन्जी बॉडी इनकी इसलिए होती है सो दैट दे कैन फ्लोट ऑन द सरफेस ऑफ वाटर. जितना इनका वेट लाइट होगा, जितना इनका साइज स्मॉल होगा, उतनी ही आसानी से ये वाटर की सरफेस पे फ्लोट कर पाएंगे. दैट्स व्हाई these floating plants are small in size, as you can see in the picture, and their weight is very light so that they can float. Their stems are reduced, roots not well developed, and leaves have thin waxy coating. Their stems are reduced because you see they are not fixed to the ground. So they need not to have a long stem. That's why their stem is very small. And their roots are not well developed. Again, they are not fixed to the ground, so roots are poorly developed, or in certain cases, roots are completely absent. After that, their leaves have thin waxy coating. So that they can float on the water. So this was about the floating plants. Now let's talk about another category, that's fixed aquatic plants. These are those plants which are fixed to the bed of the water body, that's a pond for example. ऐसे plants जो fixed होते हैं to the bottom of the pond, that means जो bottom पे soil होती है उसमें उसके roots होते हैं. And when we talk about their leaves and their flowers, they come out on the surface of the water. Like here you can see in the picture, this is lotus actually. They are actually fixed, their roots are fixed to the bottom of the water body, while as their leaves and flowers, they have come out of the water. They are floating on the water. The difference between the floating plants and these fixed aquatic plants is that when we talk about floating plants, they are not fixed with the ground of this water body. But when we talk about fixed aquatic plants, they are fixed, their roots are fixed to the bottom of the water body. The examples of fixed aquatic plants are lotus and water lily. Now let's talk about the adaptations of these fixed aquatic plants. They have hollow and light stem. They have hollow and light stem that keeps leaves and flowers afloat. इनका जो stem होता है that's hollow and that's very light and that's very long actually, क्योंकि उसे bottom से बिल्कुल top तक आना होता है. That's why it's very light, so that it can keep those leaves and flowers on the surface of the water. Like here you can see in the picture, the leaves and the flowers are on the surface of the water. They are floating actually. So their stem is very long. It's hollow and very long, so that it can keep these leaves and flowers on the surface of water. After that, they have broad and waxy leaves with stomata on the upper side. That means you can see in the picture the leaves are very broad and these are waxy. That means somewhat oily, we can say, so that they can float on the surface of water. And when we talk about the stomata, stomata are actually present on the lower side of the leaf, but in case of these fixed aquatic plants, the stomata are present on the upper side of the leaves. अगर हम बाकी plants की बात करें, we already know that the leaves, that the stomata which are present on the below surface of the leaves, but in case of these fixed aquatic plants, these stomata are present on the upper side. बाकी plants में stomata leaves के नीचे side below surface पे होते हैं, but when we talk about these plants, इन जो stomata होते हैं वो upper side पे होते हैं, leaves के upper side पे होते हैं. So this was about the fixed aquatic plants. Now let's take a look at the another category, that's underwater plants. Underwater plants. These are those plants which grow inside the water, under the water, and they remain there. That means ये ऐसे प्लांट्स हैं जो completely वाटर बॉडी के अंदर होते हैं, जो बिल्कुल वाटर में ही ग्रो करते हैं. इनका कोई भी पार्ट वाटर से बाहर नहीं आता है. If we talk about fixed aquatic plants, उनके roots fixed होते हैं with the bed of the pond, with the bottom of the pond. But when we talk about underwater plants, इनका जो होता है, इनका कोई भी पार्ट वाटर बॉडी के बाहर वाटर सरफेस पे नहीं आता है. Like here you can see in the picture, these are seaweeds which are completely submerged in the water. Now let's talk about the adaptations of these underwater plants. They have long ribbon-like narrow leaves without any stomata. Their leaves do not have any stomata. When we talk about fixed aquatic plants, they have stomata but on the upper side of the leaves. But when we talk about underwater plants, they do not have any sort of stomata on their leaves. Now the question arises, how they breathe. They actually breathe through their body surface. They use dissolved oxygen, and that dissolved oxygen is utilized through their body surface. So we studied about, this was all about the three categories of aquatic plants. We studied about the aquatic plants and their different categories and their adaptations. First of all, we discussed about what aquatic plants are. After that, what are the three categories? That's floating plants, fixed aquatic plants, and the underwater plants. And we studied them one by one. So this was all about the aquatic plants and their adaptations. This is it for now.